Whoever sees this and subscribes right now will get free karma. Hey, you get what you deserve. What's going on, YouTube? It's Knox Hill, and we are back with our reaction series. So today, man, I think there's like a little tingle in the air. It's a magical time right now because we are going to make history on this channel. I know the requests have been coming in. You guys have been begging me and asking me to deep dive into this and to feature it. And you know what? It is time to jump into the world of Sabaton. This right here is none other than Christmas Truce. Come on. Western Front, 1914. Wow. I mean, is this a movie or a music video right now? 1914, this is World War I. Trench warfare during the Great War. I mean, we're just like right there, just raw in the moment. You know, camera's very jerky, very shaky, reflecting just like the tension. Obviously, you have close-ups, some headshots, blood flying around. Even that, I kind of like that reflection because one man shouts grenade for a certain purpose, while another man shouts grenade with a different connotation on the other end and in the other trench.
Come on, man. Wake up. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hannes! Come on!
Wow. Great soundscaping right there too. You know, you have like the ringing in your eardrums as reflected through the mix there, and then you can just hear underneath, you know, almost sounding drowned out, like the gunshots, the war cries is, you know, it's still violence and madness going on around him, and you almost have like this moment of just like, I don't know, like bizarre serenity in the middle of just, you know, an awful landscape of war and everything happening while you're trying to kind of like come to your senses here. Just really dope kind of just contextualization within the sound.
Come on!
Oh. Do 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 do. I know that melody. Oh. Wow, this is crazy. You have this piano just guiding us to Carol of the Bells, and then all of a sudden, like these electric guitars just kind of come in and it just gets taken to a whole nother just level and variable. What in like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra is happening in my life? Listen to those orchestral builds. Give me those strings and those symphonic sounds. Wow.
Silence! Oh, I remember the silence on a cold winter day.
Silence. What is that? Like a Viking singing right now? Is Ragnar Lothbrok doing metal for us? But I remember the silence on a cold winter's day. And that's significant to me because, you know, that's kind of strange in the middle of a war to remember this moment of just silence when the machine gun isn't clattering and, you know, there's not explosions happening all around and death filling the air.
Silence!
Oh, really cool synchronization right there. That just little piano hit. And I timed that perfectly to hit play. And then you see his eyes kind of open back up as the dude who dodged the grenade is now coming to.
Silence! Oh, I remember the silence on a cold winter day.
After many months on the battlefield, and we were used to the violence, then all the cannons went silent, and the snow fell. Voices sang to me from no man's land. We are all, we are all, we are all, we are all friends. And
Wow.
today we're all brothers, tonight we're all friends. A moment of peace in a war that never ends.
Today we're all brothers, tonight we're all friends, a moment of peace in a war that never ends. And you hear, it talks about hearing the shouts coming from out in no man's land. You had just that picture of the bodies, you know, in the gore of no man's land. And it was called no man's land for a reason, because no man went out into it unless you had a death wish. So you hear this calling across from no man's land. Obviously 1914, the song is called Christmas Truce. So you see what we're setting up here with the silence, the actual Christmas truce of 1914, when the British soldiers, the French soldiers came together with the German soldiers and met in no man's land, and you know, nobody was firing weapons and retaliating on Christmas Day, and they actually, you know, shared cigarettes. They even played football, or soccer as the Americans like to bastardize it, and myself.
Today we're all brothers, we drink and unite. Now Christmas has arrived and the snow turns the ground white. Hear carols from the trenches, we sing a holy night. Our guns lay to rest on snowflakes.
Hear carols from the trenches, we sing O Holy Night. Because, you know, as obviously with any great story, as it gets retold and retold over time, it gets harder and harder to separate, you know, fantasy from facts. But as, you know, most of the stories go and have been backed up and told by accounts of soldiers who were there, you know, it started, they were like jeering at each other, because in some places on the trenches, they were so close, they could call out to each other. So, you know, they would like troll and jeer at each other at times. And it, like on Christmas, they were like trolling and jeering each other on Christmas night. But they said that, you know, across the trenches, like the British soldiers could hear the Germans singing Christmas carols. And in certain places, they were erecting Christmas trees and actually putting them up over top of the trenches and singing carols. And then some of that jesting and jeering all of a sudden turned into, you know, shouting back and forth, kind of somehow turning and morphing into encouragement. And the British started joining in on Christmas carols. And then there started to be talk and murmurings of a truce for the next day. Like, we won't fire if you don't fire. People are yelling that back and forth. And then you just have this just almost like magical, surrealist moment of peace in the middle of war on the trenches. So I love how this is written from that perspective. Like, we're right there in the moment, and like the silence, and you have this piano just sat and the snow falling down, representing Christmas time, representing the cold of no man's land and the dreariness, and then just how strange this silence is. And you even hear, like, within the production, some of these like Christmas bells tolling to reflect the time period, to reflect what's going on. This is dope.
Holy night, our guns lay to rest on snowflakes. Our Christmas in the trenches, our Christmas on the front, far from home.
Yeah.
Madness, how I remember the sadness. We were hiding our tears in a foreign land where we faced our fears. We were soldiers, carried the war on our shoulders.
Oh, I love that line. We were soldiers, carried the war on our shoulders.
For our nations, what are you doing? Is that when we bury our friends?
That's a hell of a question. Is that why we bury our friends? For our nations? For the sake of being soldiers? Because again, like, just this moment, this iconic moment of, you know, the enemies coming together who had been killing each other and going through war. And this was like 4 or 5 months into the war. And just to have this moment around Christmas, and yeah, realizing that, you know, even though we're different, we still have things that unite us and that make us human. And just this simple celebration of Christmas and peace. Wow.
Nations, what are you doing? Is that when we bury our friends?
Oh, you can hear that underneath. Bury our friends. Like there's just like choir sort of chanting, backing up what's being sung. And this man has such just a rich, deep voice, so velvety. I love the way that he just like rolls his tongue over top of some of these words, man.
Bury our friends. We were all friends. And today we're all brothers. Tonight we're all friends.
Wow.
Moment of peace in a war that never ends. Today we're all brothers. We drink and unite. Now Christmas has arrived and the snow turns the ground white. Hear carols from the trenches. We sing a holy night. Our guns lay to rest on the snowflakes. Our Christmas in the trenches. Our Christmas on the front, far from home.
Oh. Wow. Give me some of those Scottish bagpipes, baby. I love the reflection of this because, yeah, one of the big stories that came out in the papers and at the time was of this football game. And people were so incredulous by it. Like, how could these enemies be sat playing just a game of football together? Something as simple as that. Wow. Whoa. Whoa. I mean, what a moment, though. And I love, too, that we don't get away from the realness of the situation, right? Even though there's this just beautiful, amazing moment of uniting. Like, it's not just scenes of them, like, all coming together and cheering and clapping each other and being brothers, as the lyricism reflects, and treating each other as friends. There's also still, you know, this character looking upon the results of war and the different casualties, and you still have, you know, people who have died and this horribleness and this darkness, but somehow there's this light too. I love the way that we're walking kind of between both of these worlds and themes. And man, fuck this music. I love it. Like I feel like I could do anything right now. I could help an old lady cross traffic. You see that close-up of Wagner on the piano, German?
We were all friends. And today we're all brothers. Tonight we're all friends. A moment of peace in a war that never ends. Today we're all brothers. We drink and unite. Now Christmas has arrived and the snow turns the ground white. On Christmas on the front line we walk among our friends. We don't think about tomorrow. The battle will commence when we celebrate to Christmas. We thought about our friends, those who never made it home when the battle had commenced.
And then you just like bring it back with these strings. So emotional. Lest we forget. What siren song is that? That's a female voice. Wow, that's just as haunting. Yeah, see, he had French soldiers, British soldiers, German soldiers. I can talk. If they were French, they also had French shoulders as well, so I wasn't wrong. So that sort of operatic element now with the symphonic strings. There's a lot that went into this. This is like a film crew for a movie. Church bells tolling at the end. Nice touch. Super reverby on that too. Just really bouncing around the mix, atmospheric to take us out. I mean, I'll tell you what, this is just like a rush of adrenaline and emotion. And I love it too, because you've got the historical references and like taking a time period much in the same way like when we did the Iron Maiden breakdown, right? Or even me calling back to the epic rap battles of history breakdown days, you know, so I get to break down some more history, something that I love, that I've always been fond of. But I love how you just like take a significant historical moment that has just been, you know, so profound through the years, and then you kind of just tell it through this first person lens and first person narration as if you're there. And I think a really good writer, if you write the lyricism right, you can really transport people into that time. I think too, one of the most important themes and takeaways from this is the fact that even amidst all this tragedy and loss and horror of war, there's still a glimmer of hope. There's still a message that even amidst our differences, it's not about what divides us, but what brings us together and what unites us. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to have traveled to a lot of different places in the world, to have played in a lot of different places, to have really met some extraordinary people. And you learn, you know, as you encounter new cultures and languages and ways of life that, you know, the best moments and the funniest moments you have in sharing those experiences is when you find those sort of common denominators, and you start to like realize along the way that we have so much more in common than what we have different. You know, we're all human. You know, we all laugh, we all love, but we all go through pain and loss and sorrow. And, you know, even amidst obviously the war happening right now overseas and so much more tragedy that's going on, it's just, it can be crazy to think sometimes that mankind can be so cruel to each other when there's really just, I really wish we could get beyond it. And it's a shame that this Christmas truce was not carried on, because even historically during that time, a lot of the commanders came down hard on this. You know, that's why they made rules and signs that you couldn't leave the trenches from then on. The reason was because these soldiers were walking away from the situation, you know, confused, because all of a sudden, with all this war propaganda and everything going on, like the Germans eat babies and they're such horrible people, all of a sudden you start to humanize them, and you start to realize that they're not monsters, that they're not these cruel demons as they're painted out to be. They're just like you and me. And it just rings out so true amidst all the conflict that we encounter and all the war that we still, unfortunately, experience to this day. What an incredible message. What an incredible encapsulation of a moment. Sabaton, you were Knox Hill certified. Hope you guys liked today's video. Listen, if you're somehow here at the end, obviously enjoying the content, do me a huge favor, support the channel directly. Subscribe, notifications on. It really, really does go a long way. I love you guys. Stay safe, stay positive. This is more Knox Hill. You know, I'll catch you again